Hello, everybody. I am Melissa Forzia. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something that I call Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem. It's all about going after the things that you want in life. So, something that I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Halt and Catch Fire, but this time, talk about it with humans, which that's all of you. And this has been such a blast, but we've up leveled this because I'm getting a chance to talk with people who worked on the show. And of course, before I introduce my guest for today, just a really quick housekeeping item. If you are brand new to Halt and Catch Fire, the episode recaps are safe for you up until the episode that you're on. We keep those spoiler free up until the episode you're on. But these interviews could be spoiler filled. Any answers could come from any season, any aspect of the show, and this one for sure. So who is my guest for today? Well, it's the person you see on screen. It's Susanna Skaggs, who played teenage Haley Clark for season 4. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you about your work on this show. And yes, season 4, it's basically all spoiler territory for those who are new to the show. So this is your last warning. But let's start actually where I tend to start for these interviews, which is how did you get on this show? What was your process to begin with?
I was requested to send in an audition tape. I taped it with the acting studio I was with at the time. I sent it in. A week later, I sent in 2 more scenes, and then I think a few days after that, they asked me to come to Atlanta for a meeting with casting and the producers and the Chris's and everyone. And I was like, okay. So me and my dad drove down to Atlanta 6 hours from Raleigh and back in one day. And then I went to school the next day, which was sick. And a couple days later, my parents got the call, and then they picked me up from school, and then I received the news. And yeah, it was kind of
It sounds really fast.
it was really fun. I believe it was I think we started in April. We started filming in April, and this was in March. So it was like a couple weeks in between booking it and then being like, yes, I'm local to Atlanta. And yes, we could be homeschooled. That's fine. um, and just like figuring that out and doing paperwork. And it was my first acting job it was my first job, period. So there's lots of meetings with my agent at the time and signing papers and like watching YouTube videos or trying to find YouTube videos that are like, what happens on a set at all? I have no clue. So it was a lot of that. And then I kind of got to jump in for 401.
Wow. I
Crazy.
mean, the fact that this was your first job, I can't. The amount of work they gave you to do and
Really
the
great.
way that you did it, just unbelievable. You know, as you were doing your research, so obviously you were looking up things like how to be on a set, but also to what extent were you familiar with Halt and Catch Fire?
Not at all. I had never heard of it when I taped for it. I remember when like my last day at my in-person normal high school, my math teacher was like, "Oh, Susanna, you're leaving. Tell the class why." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be on a TV show called Halt and Catch Fire." And crickets. So it was like not for my age group, really. I mean, so I was like, I just know it's a good show because it's critically acclaimed. Okay. And then I think I watched all of the first season, and then it was time to go. So I was kind of, I don't want to say I was going in blind, but I was going in like this, you know?
Yeah, you know, given that we see a version of Haley for the
Mhm.
first 3 seasons, but she's way younger, to what extent did you do any prep for that? Did you look at any of the work Alana Kavanaugh had been doing, or, you know, how did you approach that?
Um, yeah, I made sure to watch a few of her scenes. I think there's some like YouTube clips that I was looking up of her, and we followed each other on Instagram. We still do. And she's so big now. It's so weird. She's like adult sized. It's crazy. I'm adult sized. Time is crazy. But Yeah, I also looked up the like Tumblr tag, and there's a bunch of gifs of Alana as Haley. So there's like I was looking at mostly like pictures, and I mean when you're from a small child to a teenager, I was like I don't have to emulate her voice or anything, but it was definitely like just watching the first season was the most prep I was doing.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure how helpful that would be because there is such a time jump and we
yeah,
changed so much between those ages. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I was just
You know,
it was more of like, I do look like this little girl. Okay, cool.
yeah. When you think about everything that was written for your character and everything that you saw from Haley Clark in season 4, how would you describe her?
I think the first couple or a few episodes, she's painfully shy, and she just doesn't I think she's kind of stuck in this high school world of like, I feel like there's something that I'm missing that everyone knows, and I don't really relate to any of my peers, and just there's a lot of angst there. And I think once she gets to work at Haley's Comet and understand that she has a skill that most people don't at her age, and she like she's like, oh, I'm like special, and oh, she becomes a lot more confident, but she's still awkward and like an introspective person. It was like a lot. It was very weirdly similar to how I was feeling as an actor, because I was coming in like, I don't know what the fuck is happening right now. And then as the season went on, and I was doing more and I knew more, I was like, oh, the adult world is so much better than high school. I should just stop going to school. That didn't happen, but like it was kind of just a internal growth, because you realize that you have a talent that you can do that people care about and people are listening to you. So I think that was a tangent, but she gains confidence through the season.
Awesome. Yeah, great way to look at it. Now there's a huge trajectory there. So I'm actually curious. One of the things that I think is so amazing about Haley is that when I think about shows that I've watched, if adult shows that I've watched, very rarely do you see like meaty stuff given to the kids, but rarer still to see it given to the younger sibling. This show is like very unique to me in that way. You were given a lot to do. So how much did you know about what Haley's trajectory might be when you booked
I
this?
think I remember my mom, who still to this day loves to speculate about casting and like shows. She has a casting director brain, which drives me insane sometimes, because she'll be like, "Oh, I don't think you're gonna get this one. You're not gonna get this one." I'm like, I don't care. Ah! So other than it being kind of annoying sometimes, she's really good at like digging deep into that stuff, and she knows how to ask those questions that I'm a little bit uncomfortable to ask, especially when I was 15. So I think we knew there were two sort of trajectories, because I think I have no idea if this is real. I have no idea if this is true. This is stuff my mother told me 7 years ago. But I think it was like if they found someone who wasn't exact, like if they couldn't find a teenager who was an actual teenager who could do the meaty part of the role, they were just going to be like, okay, you have a little arc and then you fade away when your dad dies. Womp womp. But I think they I don't know what I'm talking about actually.
Yeah, it sounds like there was like more than one path they could have taken
It's
depending on
like
who they found.
it's one of those things where I'm like not sure if that's real or if that was my mother being a detective, but I think it could have gone either way. But I was willing to chop all my hair off, and I was doing a good job, I guess. So I got to do a little bit more than maybe they were going to, or that like there was like a contingency plan or something like that.
That does make sense, especially because like obviously you ended up being extremely capable in the role, but for especially if you book somebody who's if this is their first job, you don't know what they're going to do
Yeah.
on set. So I think like maybe they did have a plan A and a plan B.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say, and then I completely lost the plot.
No,
Um
we're getting there. We're getting there, like we're talking our way through it. This is the juicy stuff.
ugh. But I think a little bit that could have been my mom being like, if you don't do a good job, you're gonna get fired, which is she wouldn't do, but like
If you don't do a good job, you're getting plan B. Okay, that's it. Well, that's not the right way to say that, but that's fine. You're getting the alternate plan.
right. I think it's a little bit of truth and a little bit of like focus and
There is a little bit to that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's probably why we so often see that result happen in shows where like the younger kid is like just sort of
yeah,
on screen and that's about all you get. Um,
right.
let's actually dig into some of these episodes and look at some of the specific scenes. First of all, you mentioned as when I said like describe Haley, one of the first things you said was she starts out painfully shy, right? And we're going to see in 401, so it goes. We're going to see older Haley for the first time. She's hanging out with older Joni and her friends. Cameron comes in. Joni and Cameron just they're like magnets that go straight to each other and they're hitting it off. Haley is really hanging back, and when Cameron finally acknowledges her, she basically just leaves the room, or just like squeaks and runs away. Why? What makes Haley interact with Cameron like that, especially as an adult that she actually knew?
Yeah, I think a big part of that is the way that her and Joni were able to just hit it off, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to this adult. I don't like I need to because Cameron and also Mackenzie Davis are so fucking cool. Like they are just the coolest, but like as a character and as an actor, she's just so cool. Um and as a 15-year-old meeting a really cool adult, I was like, hey, I'm in high school. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say to you. I have nothing to relate to you. But she very was really um intentional in how she spoke to me and asked me questions and talked to me and made sure I was like paid attention to. And I think because Cameron doesn't really do that, maybe in that scene, she's maybe not so aware of how, terrifying being on set for the first time in your life, maybe. She didn't do that for her. And she's experiencing a similar thing to what I was experiencing. She was like, you know what, this is my house. So I'm just gonna not be here anymore. So it's more of like an escape from it's terrifying to want to be cool in front of someone who is cool.
It's so interesting how much of a collision there was between like how you were feeling in real life and how your
Yeah.
character was meant to be feeling. It's
It was
probably, I don't know if that's easier or harder than playing opposite,
I
how you're feeling.
I think for first time it was perfect. I didn't have to pretend to be confident. I was just like, I'm scared and there's a fog machine in the room and I don't know why and everything is so loud and chaotic. But I will also say Catherine Newton that day showed me how to like navigate and how she asked for bike shorts for me because I was wearing a short dress and I was like, oh, I feel weird. I'm like all exposed and they have to go up under my dress and do the mic and I don't know what da, da, da. And she was like, oh, I'll just talk to a costume person and get you something. And then she did. And I was like, oh. And then people started bringing me water. I was like, oh, like you can ask for things that you need. And I had no idea. Oh,
Oh, wow. What a learning curve in
yeah,
the
it was
beginning of this
great.
job. Wow. You know, in 402, Signal to Noise, we're going to see Haley is cutting class. She likes to visit a place called Hound Dogs to see Vanessa, a server she has a crush on. A teacher spots her, she gets in trouble. And then we're going to see this amazing scene where Gordon has picked up, well, he has to pick up Haley because she can't be in school now and she's in trouble. And so the driver takes Gordon and Haley back to CalNect where he works. He is like setting limits with her as gently as he possibly can. And Haley bursts into tears. And you can see Gordon be like, oh, I like you were in trouble. And now I feel for you. And you
Scared.
can see it really like switch in terms of that energy. His heart is melting. Our hearts are melting. We don't exactly know why, but we kind of do. Talk to me about working on a scene like this. This is probably the first one you did with Scoot, I'm guessing.
It was. It was my very first day with Scoot, who was amazing. I was really scared because I had to just burst into tears for no apparent reason, which was not something that I didn't do. It's something I do, yeah, like Friday. This past Friday, I burst into tears in front of a pizza man. Unrelated, just a quarter life crisis, but so it's like it's hard to recreate that sort of building tension moment. And because I was already so like anxious about it, it was like a whole, and that was my first time where I was like, I'm gonna get fired, I can't cry. But it didn't matter because we have like vapor that you can put on. And I remember one time when we were resetting, like driving back, Scoot was like, just pull down your eyelids and rub your eyes, rub the fuck out of your eyes. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that, but I will sniff ammonia and make myself cry. So it was a really bizarre way to meet someone. Um, but it was, yeah, that was kind of one of the harder days, just knocked out first, you know?
Yeah. It's so amazing how parallel these paths are, because it's like Scoot in real life is like, no, you've got this. And
Yeah.
it's the same energy he had to have in the
There's
scene. It's the same energy you had to have in the scene. This is wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of support from the main cast and just everyone on the crew for me. And like, I mean, I think I got cut a lot of slack because I was 15. But I think also they're just really great people working on the show.
Absolutely. One of the things that we see from Haley is her talents, and we see it right from the beginning in this episode. And, now Haley's at work with Gordon and he gives her something to do, which is basically like, he just says, like, take all of these post-its that Joe's been writing URLs on, or website names on, and like just put them in a spreadsheet for me. And then as a little side project, she does something unassigned, and she actually creates sort of not a search engine, but like a categorized list
Yeah.
of those websites that she loves. And Gordon sees it and he's just amazed. And it becomes a jumping off point for them to talk about her interests,
Yeah.
like Richard Pryor. So, what is it about work that makes Haley open up the way that she does?
Well, I think because she has a natural ability to kind of create that search engine or organized list computer terms, it kind of is a boost of confidence because it's something she's like, oh well, I was stupid today and I skipped class. Like, she has the self-hatred kind of built on from everything that happened earlier in the day, and then she succeeds at something really easily and she's like, well, this is interesting. And then she gets to be distracted by all of her interests, like Richard Pryor and all the cool websites that she's building the search engine off of. So it's like, I think in this instance, it's like a nice distraction in general. And then she's like, oh shit, like I made something pretty cool. This is similar to what my dad does. Like, I should, like, that's great. I think it's like a little confidence boost.
Absolutely. I don't know if you knew this, but if you don't mind, I'm going to put something on the
Oh, yeah.
screen real quick here for us. There is a version of Comet that's still on the
Yeah.
internet. How does it feel to know that something that was like so integral to your character still exists in some
Cool.
form?
I love it. I think that's so cool. I need to like click around on it, but it's
A
just,
couple of the links are broken, but a lot of them go places. It's
I
so
know.
wild.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
using fish. That's great.
Yeah, I will make sure to put this link into the final video so that people can, into
Oh
the
yeah.
description, so people can check this out if they haven't seen it. But I was totally blown away that this still exists and that AMC still has this up. They're
Yeah.
like still footing the bill for this. It's wild. But yeah, it's a legacy that's continued with something that was on this show. One of my favorite things about the work that they give you to do is that they really, I mean, we were just talking about a scene where you have to burst into tears, but then you have a lot of comedy in this show,
Yeah.
like so many comedic moments. And one of the early ones that makes me laugh so much is Gordon and Joe love, especially Joe loves Haley's idea so much that they call her into Calnect to have a proper business meeting in 403 miscellaneous. And Gordon is sort of, he doesn't want to push Haley into work, and so you can see he's holding back, but Joe's like offering her $20,000 to buy her site that she just created. And Haley negotiates actually to forego payment and instead just like work at Calnect for like, instead of one of her periods of school, to go to the office. I can't stop laughing at everything about this scene. All of you, and talk to me about working on this scene, especially now that you've got like multiple, like moving parts, multiple
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I think that was one of my audition scenes. I can't remember if it was the first tape or the second, but it was definitely one of them. I remember I was wearing overall shorts and gigantic Reeboks. It was just like super, super 90s. Um, and just like it was so fun. And we got to do we did a lot of improv. I just remembered we did a lot of improv. I don't think anything really made it, but like, oh God, I can't remember why he said this, but I remember Scoot was like, Madonna like a virgin. Like I remember he bringed up a random Madonna music video, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like it's just so, it was a lot of fun. And I got to hang out with Lee and Scoot. And I believe like the Video Village where the director and everyone important sits, that's where I think my dad was with me that day. He was with me for like the first couple months. My dad was sitting over there, so like I didn't have to hang out with my parent, and so I was just like with my coworkers Lee and Scoot, so it was just super super fun. So yeah, we got to improv, and I was super comfortable with the scene because I had already worked it like at home basically, so I was just like excited to play with that. That was the first, I think that was one of the first days where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be yelled at or fired or like nothing horrible is gonna happen today, so I can really play.
Once again, the parallels continue because
Yeah.
Haley was being promoted. Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. In that same episode, Haley is accidentally introduced to porn websites in a meeting with Gordon, Joe, and Joni.
Yeah.
What do you remember about working on this one? I don't even know kind of how technically you would have done this, or if there would have been anything on
I
screen.
think it was just like a lady in a bikini or something. And it was like really slowly coming up. So it was just or maybe she was naked. I have no recollection. So I guess I wasn't traumatized. And I was 15. It's not like I was 9. So it was, I don't know the SAG rules about that, but I'm I think they projected something. And I remember Catherine taught me how to hide my phone so that I could have it in between takes. And she like tackled me one take, and I have all these like little tiny dots of memories. Like I don't have a full thing, which I wish I did. I should have like journaled this entire time, but I was
This is it. This is the journal.
busy.
I mean, if you asked me to do an interview about something that happened, 10 years ago, or however many years ago, I would not be able to produce an hour-long interview for you.
Right.
So like that. I think this is part of it. It's like, can we recapture as much as possible?
Yeah. Oh, this was another audition scene, I believe, because I memorized it. I didn't know that you had to look at your sides every morning because they put like little tiny pieces of paper of the script that you're working on that day in your trailer or like wherever you're changing. And I didn't look at it because I was like, oh, I know this scene. And then I dropped a line and Lee Pace was staring at me, like waiting for me to say something. And I was like, what? What is it? Um, because they added something or they cut something. And I had no idea. And like again, it was early on, so like my stomach dropped. And I was like, oh God, I'm failing. And then, because everyone was perfectly nice to me and there was no reason for me to be fired, I was fine. But that anxiety kind of petered out after that episode because I got to make that mistake. It's not even a big deal. It was fine, but I remember that really clearly because I was like staring at this gigantic man staring at me, and I'm like, what? um, but God, yeah. And that set was super cool. It was like the whole house in a warehouse, and I was blown away by that. That was so sick.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, it was the whole, okay, so it was the whole house in a way. Yeah, I guess it would have
Yeah, so
been, right? Because we
it
just
was
see
like,
that one main room in that
yeah,
scene,
it's
but
the living room, and then through it was the kitchen. And then I think there's like another little section where it was my room, and then Joni's room was upstairs. But it was like two different sections of the warehouse. It was crazy. Um it was very, very maze-like. So I got lost a lot.
yeah. Hmm. There is actually a staircase in the Clark house that
Yeah.
goes up. So does it go anywhere?
No, it's like a half, it's like up half a flight, or not that much, but like it's a few steps to be like, I'm going up the stairs, and then it cuts off. And then I think Joni's room was a different little section in the warehouse, and it was super cool. I
Yeah.
really liked her room.
Okay. Awesome. We haven't had a chance to talk about Carrie Bechet yet. So let's talk about 404, Tanya and Nancy. Haley and Donna are bonding basically over admiring each other's competing projects. There's Comet and there's Rover. How does having competing projects impact their relationship?
It's like, I think Haley is just a naturally awkward person in general. So am I. I think that's part, it's just we are the same person. Like I am, Haley is who I am who I was in high school, pretty much exactly. Because when I was doing it, I was like, oh, this is me in middle school. And looking back, I was like, no, that was you in that moment. Anyway, that aside, I think it just brings a level of awkwardness between her and her mom. I think um Donna probably doesn't feel that as much because she's like, oh, it's just like your project. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm your mother. Like, but I think Haley is worried that it's gonna be weird, so she makes it weird by worrying that it's weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just, I feel like she has to be more delicate around talking about work and stuff like that. Like, what did you do today?
It's so great. It's really complicated because
Yeah.
Donna also has changed a lot when we see her at the start of season 4. She is absolutely savage, and
Yeah.
we've never seen savage Donna in that way before. And like when we first find out she has a project competing with Haley's project, you actually think for a second, like, is she going to try to slit her own daughter's throat? She might. So it's like really interesting to see
Hmm.
like how do you nurture how as a parent could she possibly nurture her child if she's feeling that way. And so like the awkwardness and the I have to soften kind of have to meet in the middle, and it's like where is this going to land? It's wild. Oh my goodness.
Kind of tense, but I think I think after they kind of have a conversation about it, and that has gone, it's out in the open a little bit, it's a little bit like, okay, you still love me, you're still my mom.
Yeah.
Which was like not a super rational fear, but it's still definitely there.
Yeah. Oh wow. When we see, now that we fast forwarded a little bit into Haley's life at Comet, it's wild to see, a day in the life at the office. So we're going to see Haley be a hero for the pot stickers team at the weekly website indexing contest. And the pot stickers win, and she gets like this giant surfboard as a trophy, and she pies Gordon in the face, and she doesn't defer to her sister when she comes home. She's really growing. Talk to me first of all about that scene, that really high energy scene at
Yeah.
Comet, and like how is this all lending to her growth?
Um, I think it's a gigantic room of adults who are doing exactly what she's doing and she wins. And I feel like that sort of, it here's another parallel. It's like when I was around a crew and a cast of adults who took me seriously and who were like, "You're doing a great job," and telling me everything I need to know and like helping me out. And then I went back to junior year of high school and I was like, this is not my problem anymore. Like, I actually don't care who your boyfriend is. Da, 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 da. Like I was so above high school drama when I got back. For better and for worse, where I was just like, I don't need friends who are teenagers. You do. But anyway, I think that sort of just support and excitement from people who are grown-ups when you're in high school is like a huge thing. And I feel like I've already said this, but I think that is what makes her be like, Joni, you don't know everything. Da, 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 da. That's what gives her the confidence to stand up to her. And also just getting to pie your dad in the face is so, so fun. It was so fun. I had so much fun doing that.
Yeah.
It
Was
was
that a one take thing, or did you get to pie him multiple times in the face?
I was when it was my coverage, they were trying to get me to fake it, to like throw it and then throw it on the floor, but I couldn't. It was one of those things because I was not very experienced on camera, even after a few episodes. It was a technical move with the camera where it is, and I couldn't figure it out. It just looked like I was doing this. Like I was just like throwing it. And so Scoot whispered to me, it was like, no, just do it right to my face. I'll move at the last second. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll throw it right at you, but you gotta move because of costumes. And then I went to do it, he didn't move, and I pied him straight in the face. And it was yeah, he did it on purpose. And it was so fun. I know that was the take they used because I went I was a little bit like, oh fuck, I messed up. But it was also hilarious. So I did get to pie him a couple times. And that was so fun. It was
So great. It's enough to do it once, but multiple times, come
yeah,
on.
at least like
Oh man. Okay, so when we hit 406, from this point on, you're getting more and more and more, I feel like. And, a connection is made. We're going to see Haley and Gordon and Katie, his girlfriend, and Joe and Cam, they go to shoot rockets
yeah,
for Haley's birthday. What was this scene like?
it was really fun. I'm very anxious. I was anxious about the rockets. I was anxious I was gonna shoot an eye out or whatever. They brought in these like rocket masters for props. Like it wasn't just the art department, it was a group of just like dudes who love rockets, who were kind of like setting everything up and teaching us how to, press the button and everything. And that was really cool. And I also remember the corduroy pants I was wearing were a little bit too big. So as I was sprinting, I was like pulling up my jeans, which was great. Very, very Haley, very growing teenager wearing awkward clothes. Um, and I remember the one of our producers, Jeff Freilich, took a video of us and he was like, look at this, I edited it to look like you exploded. Which is the most bizarre thing for like I don't want to say an old man, but an older man to come up to you and like, look at this video I edited. And it was just like the rockets went out and then this like stupid like app editing app like bomb explosion just went boom and it blew us up. It was just like everyone is really silly today. Um, So that was like that's one of the videos I still have on my phone that I'm never ever gonna delete because why did he do that?
Now that I got a chance to do an interview with Jeff, so maybe we all can
Yeah,
appreciate this story even more.
I'll email you the video so you can
Oh
see.
my gosh.
And it's just like he sent it to me. I was like, why? But that was so funny. Um, and I remember like sitting on a blanket with Anna Chalumsky, who was obviously a child actor too, and she was like, giving me advice and telling me about like, stuff that was happening as a teenager to her, and I was like, oh my God, I have like these are the connections people were talking about when I got the show. So I feel really lucky still that I got to have that big day with all of the like main cast. That was kind of crazy. Um, and we would like sit around waiting between setups, just chatting. I definitely said embarrassing things or thought I said something embarrassing most of the time, but they didn't treat me like I was a teenager. They treated me like I was a peer, not in a inappropriate way, but like they just took me seriously, um, and listened when I spoke. And that was just like a great experience.
Yeah, what a
As
gift. What a
Yeah,
gift.
it was
You know,
very.
you mentioned Anna. How do you think Haley felt about Katie as Gordon's girlfriend coming in?
Oh gosh. Well, I think Katie was a really cool chick. Like she was just super cool and you know, um I think they it was a good match and I was like, okay, well, I think at that point I was not real I don't know. I'm like now I'm trying to remember exactly
I
what
mean, it seems like it's a
you
smooth
have more
transition, but I think like if you
yeah,
think about that in real life, it would be
it would have been
complicated being
yeah, that's
basically
like,
Haley's boss and
yeah,
also like not her mom, but her,
yeah,
it's like a
yeah, I
very
was like
interesting.
there's some parts that we weren't in the show that definitely would have happened. But like you said, it was definitely a smooth kind of, oh, okay, this is what's happening now, transition. Um, where it's just like, okay, this feels right. Gordon needs to put himself back out there or whatever. But it was just like a good partner for um, the ev- everything that was happening with him. And it was she was like a little bit more approachable for Haley rather than like Cam because she grew up with Cam as kind of like, oh, she's like super smart, super important person in my dad's life, like she's really really cool, and kind of meeting her when I'm at a confident level was like, okay, I'm not gonna freak out about this new person that I want to like me and that I might want to like too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, a really powerful scene in this episode is Haley brings Joe to Hound Dogs and he sees Haley and Vanessa interacting and he clocks it instantly what's going on there. It's such beautiful work from both of you in this scene. It's a very delicate touch. How did you and Lee approach this one?
Oh my God. Um, I'm trying to think of that day. That was, and that's another day where I got to just like sit with Lee in front of me and chat. And he was like the most lovely, kind person ever. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's like one of those, oh God, I don't like,
It's so
it's,
much is between the lines. Like
yeah,
there's what's happening in the dialogue, but
yeah,
that's not what's happening in the scene.
yeah,
It's amazing to see
yeah.
like all of the little subtle moments there.
Yeah. And you know what? Anna Chelensky also told me to listen to the musical Fun Home, specifically that song Ring of Keys, if you know it. And I remember sitting in the hotel room. My mom was with me at that time. My parents switched out because we had to drive down from Raleigh to Atlanta. Anyway, um, she would like walk into the hotel and I would be sobbing listening to Fun Home. And the song Ring of Keys is kind of about when this little girl is in a diner, she sees like a classic butch lesbian, like with cool, like just boots and everything. The whole, like, when you think of a butch lesbian, it was exactly that. And so that kind of like recognition and just like kind of desire to know more about this lady, like that was kind of where I was coming from with how Haley felt with Vanessa. Um, So I think that sort of like I was comfortable with um Joe. Oh my God. It escaped me for 2 seconds where I was like, what the hell was his name? Um, so I'm just very comfortable with Joe, and I feel like it's kind of maybe not a completely conscious way of being like, this is who I am, and kind of being like, I'm introducing you to a different part of me. Um, but because it's just so on the surface for her of how much like how big of a crush and how much she wants to just like look like her and carry herself like her and just, just be able to be who she is, it just like comes out and there's like no hiding it, especially not from Joe, who's bisexual himself and like is kind of like clocking it immediately, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was, and I also think she's talking about like being yourself online. Um, so that is already coming out where she's like, I just wish I could be open, girl. Yeah, it's just like I don't think it's necessarily like this is me coming out, but it's also she's kind of opening herself up to an adult in a way that she's never done before.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, it's
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, I think about the first crying scene that you talked about that you have, and then I think about, um, we get 407, who needs a guy? Gordon dies. And at the end of the episode, it's very subtle what's shown on screen, very artistic, but we do get a scene at the end of this episode where we see Donna, Joni, and Haley crying in bed together. How do you get three people to this place? Like, what, trying to do this scene, what was that like?
um yeah, I remember it was like super quiet and the bed was so comfortable. Um and honestly, my my personal worst fear for my since I was like little, when I realized people died, was parental death and sibling death. So literally just the idea of that situation got me crying and upset. And I think also just being comfortable with all of the people that we were around made it a lot easier to burst into tears. Um, I don't know, like that sort of thing, that I remember that scene was so much easier than the first time I had to cry without prompting. Um, just because I was like, this is heavy. Like it's just heavy. And also I was so when I was told that Gordon died, like a couple of episodes when we were working on a couple of episodes before, I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, you're making fun of me. Like, stop saying that. What do you mean? And then I read the script and I was like, did you send me a fake script? Like, what? What? So I think I was also just upset that I wouldn't be able to see Scoot as much. And yeah, I think that was super simple, just crying with like holding your mom. There's something about also just being held by a mother figure that I'm just like, it just starts immediately for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I The next episode is so complicated, especially for your character, because it is a deeply grief-stricken episode. We're really in the grief, but there are moments of laughter. There are moments of comedy, and a lot of them come from Haley. Haley and Joe, we get the fish head scene,
Yeah.
which is a gift to television. We get the stealing a bag of clothing back from Goodwill.
Yeah.
What was it like being on set for this scene? What kind of show did you feel like you were in with the stuff that you were being given to do?
I felt I think the essence, the core of those really hilarious scenes with fish heads and stealing the clothes that aren't even ours, the core is that I want my dad's jacket back, or it was the jacket, right? Like, or a shirt or sweater. Like I
Sweater, I
want,
think. Yeah.
okay, yeah, it was a sweater, but I want my dad back and I can't get him back. But somehow this sweater of his that smells like him, that he probably needed to send to the dry cleaners, or like that just was, you know, just a comfort item. She wants a comfort item because her dad is not ever coming back, right? So it's just like, the moments of levity are kind of what makes it more tragic, where it's just like, I'm doing this crazy thing and I'm listening to this bizarre song because I'm like either want to be distracted, or I'm just like going going through something so tragic and doing anything I can to get scraps of him back. Like that is so sad. Um and just so poignant. But then Joe's like sprinting out of Goodwill, and it's just like a ridiculous situation to be in. So I think I didn't really take them as these are the funny scenes. It was just like it's the funny moments of a tragedy, you know?
Yeah. That's so beautifully said. And that gives me some new context for the fish head scene. Yeah, one more scene I want to look at, more for the idea of it. In Ten of Swords, 410, we're going to see Haley is listening to the tapes that Gordon made for himself, of his own voice, to saying things to calm himself down. Haley listens to that now. But I also think about the fact that younger Haley, um, would have Donna sing Baby Mine to her to fall asleep. And I think about the fact that Haley, we've seen this Haley through the years be comforted by her parents' voices, and here she is again doing that. It's such a beautiful scene, very internal work. What was it like shooting this scene? And were you actually hearing anything?
Oh my God, was I? I don't remember. I think so. I have no recollection, actually. Um, that was the last thing I shot. So, that I think I was wrapped after that. So I was when I'm, keeping tears back and like thinking, I think I was mostly just saying like this is my last day. Like this has been amazing, and reflecting on my filming experience and crying because it was almost over. Um, but crazy. Okay, I'm thinking of another parallel. When I was horribly, horribly ill in London, when I was trying to do study abroad in 2022, the only thing I could listen to in my earpods or whatever was just my dad's country music. He doesn't make like the music that he likes to listen to in the car. That was the only thing I could stand to listen to while I was like vomiting my guts out. So I think it's just a similar, I'm sorry, I just like, I know that's not super relevant, but it just came to me. Those sort of parallels that I have with Haley that are just so like kind of bizarre. But yeah, I think it was that moment for me when I was filming it was about the experience of the season 4 of Halt and Catch Fire.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We've talked a little bit about some of the people that you worked with, but we haven't really talked too much about, you were, everything that you were doing was set in the 90s. So, the scenes need to be set in the 90s. They're cultural touchstones, both written into the script and, decorating the set. What was something that jumped out to you from that time period?
Yeah, I stole a lot of scrunchies from the set. I remember. Uh,
Scrunchies.
that was amazing. And I was going through my old emails from when I was auditioning and just stuff from 2017 in my Gmail. And some of the producers sent me like the fish head song and the I'm crushing your head video of Kids in the Hall. So there's like a lot of stuff that I didn't have any knowledge about because I was born in 2001, so I missed the 90s. But oh, they gave me a Polaroid on my first day as like a first day of filming gift. Me and Catherine got a Polaroid. She taught me how to take it, um, and how to load the film and all of that. So all those like little 90s touches, I was like able to be like, what is what is this? And then it would be explained. There's also a lot of Beanie Babies. Um, my cat destroyed the piggy bank that I stole from set as well yesterday. So um,
Good timing.
there's a lot of like little ceramic doodads that I nabbed at on my last day. But yeah, I was as a non-90s kid, I was just kind of like weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool to
This
see
is
what
what it
jumps
is.
out for you because for some of
Yeah.
us there's nostalgia, but for you it's like I have literally no idea what this is. And then that's the stuff that's like, oh, okay, this is like a whole other culture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
really
and
cool.
also the music. I'm so sorry I interrupted you, but I that's this job was how I learned about PJ Harvey and Veruca Salt and just like cool 90s music
Yeah.
that I still listen to right like now. So that was another big cultural like thing that I was introduced to from this job.
What a great takeaway. Are there any other sort of catch-all favorite moments, maybe with people that haven't come up?
Mm. When I got my hair cut off, the hair stylist, the hairdresser, Lane, who is the coolest lady on earth. Everyone was so cool. It sucked because I was like, I'm such a nerd. Ugh. But it was perfect for Haley. But anyway, um, she chopped all of my hair off, and I'm just anxious, and I had really long hair for me. It was my first time doing a pixie cut, and she made me look awesome, and it was really cool. I grew it out immediately because I was not comfortable with my entire face being out. But I got a pixie cut like a couple like a year or so ago. I've grown it out obviously, but I rocked it a little bit with a little bit more confidence this time. And she
I'm
was very
actually really curious about that because this is not meant to be a plug for something else I've done, but I did a podcast with a friend about the show Felicity. It was an audio only podcast, but we talked about the haircut a lot because in season 2 of that show, which was from the late 90s and early 2000s, it's like the stuff of legend. Her haircut was so ill received that the WB actually made a policy not to have major appearance changes in their main characters. It was like devastatingly bad, the reception to it. And so I was wondering if, when this is now becoming a part of your storyline, if there was any concern about that from production.
No, I think their concern was like if you don't agree to cut your hair, a wig is gonna look like shit and it's gonna be so expensive. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Um, and I'm really glad I did. I think I was really apprehensive about it, but once I did it, I was like, now I know that if I have to cut my hair again for a role, it's really not a big deal to me. Um, but like the week coming up to that, I was like, I can't do it. I was freaking out about hair that grows. So,
I love that this is something that you were boldly able to do and that it was
yeah,
an artistic thing to show what was happening for Haley and that you were brave enough to actually do it for yourself.
I think it was um just important for her to be like it's kind of a fuck you dad moment too. And then she's like way really soon after that going to his funeral, which is just like oh so
And now you
just
have that reminder on your
ah
head. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to
but
rewatch that differently now that we have
God
this conversation.
yeah
Ooh.
so sad. But another that was like I think the director for that episode where I chopped my hair off, she was like, "Can we make it look a little more raggedy?" And I was like, "No, this is my real hair."
Yeah.
And Lane was like, "We're not going to do that. We can make it look bad with hair products, not by chopping off her hair." Because the point was made after like once the funeral is being planned, Donna is not going to let her child go to her father's funeral looking crazy. Like
Mhm.
she's going to take her to a hairstylist and fix her hair. You
Yeah.
know, that like that was kind of the story moment that was kind of argued for not giving me like a Mia Farrow mohawk weird combination of things like
Mhm.
so that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, what are you? I know it's been a very strange time in your industry. So, is there anything that you've done since Halt and Catch Fire or recently that you want to make sure that people know about? This is a great time to plug anything.
Sure. A couple years ago, I filmed a Netflix rom-com called Lemon Gelato, and it was so fun. It was so very different from Halt and Catch Fire in terms of genre. It's like a teen romantic comedy, and I'm kissing boys. Um, Shot horror.
Haley Clark.
I know.
What?
But no, she like I got to spend a summer in Italy. It was amazing. Wouldn't trade it for anything. But yeah, since then there's been like strikes. I finished college, which is
Congratulations.
so yeah, thank you. Yeah, other than it being extremely slow in terms of auditions and production, I'm planning to move to New York next year, early next year, saving money, living at my parents' house. And auditioning when there are auditions and doing theater.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of, waiting for streaming and studios to get their shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that's a
Yeah.
common story right
I
now
saw
for
that. Sorry, I saw that question at the bottom of the draft of interview questions, and I was like, that's the meanest thing you could ask a person in their early 20s. Like, what's next? Like, don't even talk to me.
that's why it's a
Yeah.
draft, right? Like I approached it
Okay.
differently. And I also
I read it, I was
know
like,
that
I
like
don't
that's the
know.
worst question for somebody to ask when they're talking to somebody your age, but it's also for like your whole industry right now. It's like, I don't know.
Stop asking me. Stop. What a bother. But
Stop hassling me with this.
I can't even talk about it. But yeah, I love theater. Theater is always going to be there. So
I mean, no question
I,
about it.
I would
Like, I
love
mean,
to be in
from what we saw from you on this show and from Love and Gelato, like what incredible talent you have and capacity to be able to deliver a lot of really complex material. And so I hope we get to see you in lots more stuff in the future, or whatever it is you choose to do. But I'm excited for your journey, whatever that should be. And thank you so much for doing this, though. I mean, what a blast to be able to dig into these scenes with you.
it. It's so fun to revisit them and like kind of rehash everything and how fucking lucky I was to work with all of these people. It was just an amazing experience. I'm glad I got to relive it with you.
I can't believe this was your first job. I just can't believe that. It boggles my mind, but
Like one of those weird, like I just looked like young Haley and I was exactly the level of awkwardness that they needed.
it's so priceless. Well, hang out with me for an extra second after we say goodbye to everybody who's listening, but to everybody who's listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Of course you enjoyed this interview. I mean, come on. Go out there and watch Halt and Catch Fire or rewatch Halt and Catch Fire, whatever the case may be. Enjoy, everybody.